Alright, so apparently I figured out what the issue was. On this guy's video for accumulating a lot of energy in return. So he had this. Something like this. He had something like this. It was 152 and then this much. So I'm using a pistol build, but this is what's his base setup for this lower area, including the prime sure-footed. But I'm using pistol amp. So with this is what he had on. This increased his critical chance. So every time he was firing his weapon, his critical chance was increasing. Thus, based on the damage amount he has, critical chance, he was getting those energy in return. And this is damage towards primary. It's also important. Firing rate towards primary weapon. Also had that on too. And in addition to that, the weapon he was using was a primary weapon. But in this case, what the issue was, for me anyway, I could put a mod here. Let's say I put any mod here for that matter. Doesn't really matter. Then I put another mod in here. Doesn't matter. The thing is, he purchased a Merciless mod from Steel Path guy, Tekken, and he gave you an arcane to put in the slot here. And that arcane to put in the slot was damage dealt. So, other than the arcane for critical chance and additional damage dealt, he had on his primary weapon also the mod Merciless in the slot right here, in the secondary slot, which I don't have yet. And he put it on a specific weapon that does impact range all round damage. Now, the whole factor of what I was trying to do is trying to see if I could put a build for any weapon with regards to Harrow and get a decent amount of damage and critical hit to get energy in return. Not just for specific weapons, for any weapon to work effectively with Harrow. That's something he didn't do. That's something he probably will never do. It's only you're trying to get certain kills, you're trying to get mission done fast, or use specific weapons. But an all-rounder build is basically an all-rounder work with everything. If it doesn't work with everything, then, you know, I guess if you take the Merciless mod and put it on any other weapon, the effect will still be the same. But the thing is, you have to have Harrow set up to the type of mod setting you need him for. And he has to have these two on, and those effects will work with regards to whatever weapon you have on. with whatever mod setup you have on for here. What doesn't work, however, um, also he had on the Veteran. What doesn't work, however, is this right here, the efficiency. That doesn't play out the way it's supposed to play out. And I don't know if this dude was doing his own thing one day, but if you do this, this creates a smoke around you. There's no waves circling the body. If you do this energy effect comes out. And if you do this, this is like this. So I could say he used the second ability, but I doubt it. No. What he used was this ability. Now with this ability here, at 45% efficiency, you get it off. If you have max energy. And then snag an enemy, and then catch a third. That's all you really need. And then we get energy in return. So you're able to do 3 of the 4 abilities with this Harrow build. Well, before I thought, well, you can't get the energy you want because it's only at 45% efficiency. But if you put on the duration to 148 and you have on flow, as long as you have on flow or any type of flow, you're able to execute the ability. The issue is with the amount of energy you have on you, not really the efficiency type. See, because now you can't cast the ability at all because you don't have enough energy to cast the ability. But if you have prime flow on or flow on, you can cast the ability at least once. So the efficiency is not the problem either. The problem is getting enough energy in return for the amount of damage you do based on crit hits. And that was the type of weapon he was using. He was using a weapon that does critical hits based on the amount of damage you have and the amount of critical multiplier he has on and the amount of critical chance he has on, as well as the primary arcane that was attached to the weapon. So those were the factors, including a maxed out Avenger and this. All of those factored into the equation, and this wasn't really that much of a relevance because he had on enemy radar. So the main factor of the build is this one, these two on, and on your secondary weapon, as long as you have a critical chance of 100 and multiplier is high, all you need is to get a secondary arcane for your weapon adapter for whatever weapon you have the highest critical chance on. Put it in that slot and make sure you have good surrounding damage. I guess you could say you could improve blast radius for a weapon, and it'll proc the attack to increase your chance of getting a critical hit. But the thing is, blast damage for area only works best with enemies weapons that does blast damage. It doesn't work that great with weapons that just do quick fire arrays that follow a specific path. And that's something that he never did with his video. He didn't state the specific type of weapon that he could use the Harrow with to get the type of multiplier on regular weapons. I'm pretty sure they would probably say, well, it works on regular. It doesn't. Because if you're using a weapon that does strictly straightforward firing, doesn't do area of effect damage, it doesn't work that way. That's not how it works. But that was the issue with the last build I have, and to be honest, this build works very good, and in a slot right here. If you really want to have this right here, and then have prime flowing, flow or prime flowing, max prime flow, and then put the duration here, right here. Or if you're not worried about duration, you have a weapon that could do extremely fast kills. You just put vitality right here. But the main thing is that you need to fit. All your mods have to fit here. I don't have enough capacity for this, and I don't want my Exuma slot to be filled with a specific arcane type slot. I want to fit all type of Exumas within this slot. So if I would need to make this an Exumas open area, so that I could put any Exumas mod here. And then once that Exumas mod goes here, there'll be more capacity, but not enough capacity to put vitality here, and not enough capacity to put like another mod here. So it really depends on what I want. Do I really want to see? Because if I put these two here, then I'll put an Umbra, and with an Umbra, I'll get to the same value I wanted, as well as the duration I wanted. Everything's perfect, but now I don't have enough capacity space, so I would need to make an Umbra for here and for here in order to get enough capacity space to fill in here and here. Or at least I'll need to make an Umbra for here and then form a capacity here with another Umbra. So I would need to form it as twice. Or I could leave that alone completely. Put this back here. Put the range back there. And then put this back there. Then ensure that I have just this, just the Exumas era format for an Exumas mod adapter. That's all. I don't need to form it twice beyond that. So once I decide to go here and put more, another mod here for this area. Once this gets to a maximum of 7, another mod here. Let's say this is 7. This will actually be the correct build that you will put for Harrow to do a lot of critical hits on enemies. Now, would that work perfect for survival? No. In survival, that won't work. This is for quick kills, not for survival. In long survival, you'll need a hell of a lot more than just to kill enemies real quickly, or just to kill strong enemies. In long survival runs, it won't play out that way, and that was where you would probably need, I would say, you will need more health. You will need your health in that situation. If you're doing long survival runs, you will need your health. So in the long survival runs, you will need either your health, or if you're not too worried about health, you will need you need more shields and a little bit more health. So either way, more shields, more health, or more health, less shields. Either way. So this is good right here. Just a little bit more shields is better than no shields at all. Because our whole thing is shield regeneration period. But that's not the issue here. The main issue is surviving longer. So if they take down your shields, the only thing that's keeping you alive will be your health. So this will work out perfectly in longer survival. Whereas the other one is just for the sole purpose of doing fast kills in a certain amount of survival before an enemy kills you. But if they manage to damage you severely, you won't have the health, or you won't have the recovery time in order to get the energy you need to make yourself whole again, or recharge time off your shields to be whole again. So in this case, this works out perfectly for an all-rounder build, with the fact of these two now being the primaries, which is far better because Avenger will increase critical chance, which increase your multiplier as well on your weapon, and increase primary damage if you're using your primary weapon to increase it. Which is you have to take this off and then put on a primary weapon of any type. Let's say this. And having this on, and not putting, let's say, enemy radar. Or if not enemy radar, if you're using a rifle or a shotgun in this case, put this on. There'll be more shotgun damage, there'll be more critical chance to our shotgun damage, and there'll be more shotguns as well. And on the shotgun, you would have to have something like a high critical chance or a high status chance. It wouldn't be something like this. This wouldn't be good. You need to pick something that's very good. Let's say this, for instance. Something that at least exceeds 100, or like this. Exceeds 100 status duration. So that when you find your arcane adapter, the secondary, you put it in here, you put the merciless one in. The merciless one will also increase damage towards this weapon as well. So now you have increased damage here. You have increased damage to a weapon here. And you have more critical chance based on damage increase here. Which more critical chance based on damage here. To give you more critical hits and refill your energy pool within the Warframe. And at 100, that's decent. Now you won't get a lot of energy back because you're just at 55, at 155, and at 155, the energy conservation is at 15, which is okay. Whereas in this one, take that back. This one is 16. It's not that great. And it's not that great because the efficiency is 45. But the damage that's being dealt, damage multiplier is at 381. So you hit those critical, you'll get criticals real quick. which you'll get return for energy based on criticals really quick as well. You may only have an energy conservation of 16, duration of 53, which is pretty long, and hit drop multiplier 4. But you'll get back more energy faster because the higher your strength is, the more energy you get back based on the amount of critical hits you get. So the more critical hits you get, the more energy you get back. And the more powerful your strength is for that ability, the more energy you'll get in return. And so that was the issue with the last build I have for Harrow, and now the solution with this build. That you could go with this with a lot of damage to get more energy in return and more critical hits, or you could take a more safe route with Harrow for a more all-rounder build, because that's the whole point. This is an all-rounder build, and the all-rounder build will make you survive just as long as the other one, but it will take you much longer to get those critical hits. And that's something that you want to decide on. How long it'll take you to get critical hits before you can get your energy back. And that was solely dependent on how the arcanes you have on Warframe, and the arcane you have on your primary weapon, which in this slot you have to purchase it from Tekken and put it in the secondary slot to increase your damage, because it's a merciless arcane, which will increase the damage towards the weapon. And then you get it in return a certain amount of energy consistently. So that was the main issue with the last video, is that I didn't have on the type of arcanes necessary to get the critical hits and more damage out, and I didn't have on the primary weapons, actually on the secondary weapons which I was using, an arcane slot open for the Axomatic, which is a merciless mod. So if I put merciless mod in here, it would have done more damage and then gave me more critical chance and more energy in return. Not a lot, but far better than what I had before. But since we're not going for an incredible crit route and to kill everything real fast, we're doing kill everything fast as possible and get energy back at the same time. What we're also doing a more stable build where we want to survive equally as long as we want to actually deal out damage and get energy in return. So I guess if I do go the route of putting these two on and putting this on, if I do go this route, I will have to, after like say 10, 20, 30 minutes, I have to understand that eventually I'll run out of energy. Now, even if I cast I have to be very careful using this build because I only have 45% efficiency. So I must always get critical hits. I must always do heavy damage and do critical hits. Because if I just do random enemy attacks without critical hits from any type of random weapon, it won't work. So that weapon has to do massive damage and it has to get out critical hits. Otherwise this is pointless. So I wouldn't recommend this if you're using any type of weapon. I would recommend using that build with the Blind Rage on if you're having a weapon that does AoE damage as well as massive damage and has high crits. It doesn't work with all random other type weapons. This, however, this is the build I'll go for, a more all-rounder Harrow build. Because then you get a decent amount of damage done, a decent amount of energy conserved. Your multiplier may not be 3. The amount of crit hits multiplier may not be 3. but it's decent enough for you to get a certain amount of crits off. And you have these two arcanes on, and you have on whatever your secondary or primary on, you have this. You buy the ribbon, I mean the arcane from Tekken. You put in this slot here. It's a merciless arcane for the secondary or your primary, depending on what type of build you're going on your Harrow Warframe. Put it here, and you make sure your status duration is over 100 or your critical chance is over 100, and your multiplier is 4 or your multiplier is 6, and your damage total. If you don't have 1,000 damage total, your basic damage total minimum shouldn't be anywhere lower than 800 for either your primary or your secondary. So this is the build I would go with, just to be on the safe side. Always have 100 efficiency. Always have this. This is your safe bet rule. As well as and if you're worried about, okay, so where is the enemy coming from? You can't see them. Like say they're hiding behind walls. They're not like in a simulation where you know where they are. Or they're on top of buildings. Only then would you use something like an enemy radar if they're hiding within rooms at a distance and you can't see them, but you know they're coming towards you. So this would be the build for Harrow. If you're more concerned about finding enemies, if you're not concerned about finding enemies, you're more concerned about dealing damage towards more damage towards your weapons, you would go with the weapon of choice, like say steel charge. You have all steel related melee mods, or you would go with a shotgun, which is your primary, and more fire rate to shotgun and more critical chance to shotgun, as well as on whatever type of weapon you're using. The secondary arcane attached to that to give it more damage as well, where in this case this is considered a rifle. You would have on your Warframe a rifle mod. So now your rifle gets more firing rate and gets more critical chance, and your weapon that you're using as your primary, you put on the merciless or whatever arcane goes to your primary to deal out more damage. And every time you deal out more damage towards Harrow, you get towards your critical chance ratio. And higher your critical chance, the more crits you get, the more energy you're getting back in return based on his strength of his fourth ability. So 2.69 is okay. Not the greatest, but it's okay. And that's it for me. That's what I would consider this to be my all-rounder Harrow build. This build right here. This is the build I would go with. And for whatever primary weapon you want to choose, you could do what I said in this video. But whether it's pistol you're using, whether it's shotgun you're using, whether it's enemy radar you're using, whether it's steel melee weapon you're using, you just switch out that aura mod and put in the aura mod of choice. And then for whatever the type of aura you're using, pistol, you put in the more damage towards pistol here. As if it's for melee, you put in the more damage towards the melee here. But always keep the critical chance one on. Keep the Arcane Avenger on, and you just replace this rather than towards primary with towards pistol or towards melee. But keep this one on for more critical chance at all times. And just switch out this with whatever you're using. But every other mod in here is perfectly fine. I mean, you could pretty much get rid of Augur Secrets and put on more health if you're scared of dying, just to have more health. Either way works out to your advantage, whether you decide to put it on or don't put it on. Doesn't really matter, because this build works just as equally as good as the other one. Just This the Argo Secrets just give you a little extra boost of energy more. That extra boost of energy more isn't really all that great, but having vitality may prove more beneficial than that extra boost of energy. So if you're not going to go Argo Secrets to give you that extra boost of energy, go with vitality. So this is an all-rounder build. This is the type of build you want for Harrow. This is what you want for anything that's rifle related, more critical chance. Anything that's shield related, even for corrosive. But mostly, this firing rate towards primary is to deal with everything that's primary weapons. Shotgun, rifle. So shotgun or rifle, or even sniper rifle. I say Deadeye. Anything that's primary weapon, anything that's this weapon right here, your first slot weapon. This arcane will work perfectly. If you're not using the first slot, let's say you're using just melee, then you will have to switch this one out because that has nothing to do with the aura itself, with slashing. This is for guns. You put a slash mod like Arcane Strike on, but this one, Arcane Avenger, you keep on at all times. So this is the build out, all-rounder build I will go for Harrow. This is the build I will use on at all times, with regards to Harrow, to take out whatever enemy you're taking out and get as much critical hits you can. And depending on the type of secondary or primary weapon, you would get a merciless arcane from Teshin, from his location, put it here, and that will give you even more damage towards your primary weapon. Whether it's for 100 status or 100 critical, with a multiplier 4 or 6, but never below a multiplier 4 or 6. With the damage of base damage of 800 or 1000 more, but no less than that. And that's all I could say with regards to this Harrow build. I mean, the first one I had before works, but now that I know that the Avenger is the better choice for the Arcane to get more critical hits, damage on weapons, and that the primary or secondary weapons, an Arcane on that will also increase more damage and give you more critical hits, I would go with that. I would go with all these. I would go with the Avenger for the Warframe and the Arcane for the primary or secondary, and I will go with this build above all other builds just to be on the safe side. So you could not only beat level 1 enemies, but beat level 100 enemies as well. It won't give you a lot of energy because your strength isn't that great, but you will be able to have consistent amount of energy as long as your efficiency is at 100. So you don't have to worry about wasting too much. Always have on reserves.